it's one thing to write a song about somebody. It's a whole other thing to write a song about somebody who probably lives down the road. And it's a whole other thing. It's a whole other thing to get Sheryl Crow on the radio away with. That's a hell of a line, man. That's a hell of a line.
Well, thank you. I wish I could take credit for writing it, but I didn't write that one. So I have to defer to the songwriters on that. But it did hit me the same way that it hit you. I just thought it was a really unique way to talk about a relationship and use Sheryl Crow as sort of the I don't know, the metaphor for a relationship, I guess is the best way to say it.
A walking, living, breathing metaphor. That is Sheryl Crow to a T. You can apply her life and her righteousness and her rebel spirit and rebel heart to almost any part of your life. She's a true force of nature.
She sure is. And I know you remember when you're younger than I am, but when she first came out and her music first came out, it was pretty incredible. I mean, it was all over the place and it was huge. And it's true. I mean, you listen to every single song on there and listen to that album over and over and over again.
To me, she was also, actually in a stealth way, and we didn't realize it till later. She was a really interesting bridge between the kind of craftsmanship of writing songs that occurs every day in Nashville and to the wider world that to some degree had probably compartmentalized country music as something that existed within its own state. And she really opened it up and put it on the world stage, I feel.
I think so as well. And the thing about country music that I've come to find, and it's been this way for a long time, it's just that it's reached a broader audience now. I run into so many pop artists and other genres of music artists and rap artists, just other artists that really appreciate country music and appreciate the songwriting and the storytelling of country music.
Storytelling.
Yeah, and are influenced by it in a lot of ways. I mean, I think you can, just like, I'm influenced by everything that I listen to. I mean, I was heavily influenced by the Eagles in the style of music that I do, but also George Strait and Merle Haggard at the same time. So all those influences come together. And I think what's happened through the years is, when we were younger, I mean, growing up in the 70s and then the artists that come before us, the opportunity to listen to different types of music was sort of a narrow band, what you could find on your radio stations. Now, you can go on your phone to an app and you can listen to radio stations all over the world and kinds of music all over the country. So the lines are getting more and more blurred of where the influences come from. And I think that that's a good thing for music because I think it makes each genre grow a little bit.
Including Apple Music Country, our newly launched dedicated station to country 2020 and beyond, whilst also paying respects to the great people who have carried the torch. Tim McGraw, you were one of those people. It's great to finally meet you. Congratulations on the new album, Here on Earth. It's a beautiful, lush, honest, reflective album. It's got some really fantastic production touches, experimentations, but the songs are incredible. So respect, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I mean, we spent a lot of time working on. We worked on it for 2.5 years at least, and what we wanted to do was sort of marry all the experience that I've had and all the influences that I've had throughout my career, including going back and listening to all the records that I've made and sort of using those as an influence as well, song-wise and production-wise, but adding, it's like going back to some of the sort of song choices and melody choices and things maybe from the 90s of the music that I was making, but sort of sprinkling 2020 sauce all over all of it and trying some different vocal sounds and some different production sounds. And we recorded it all in the old analog way, full band, all the band there at one time, all on 2-inch tape.
You can hear it. I mean, song number one, LA, it's so rich with that. I mean, you've referenced Jimmy Webb and Glenn Campbell for that song and writing, but I also hear things like Bread in that song, melodically.
Melodically and some of the sort of the modern Candy stuff that's sprinkled throughout it that you can hear, that it goes, that blends really well with the strings. And boy, I tell you, when we were putting that song together, and we went to put strings on it. David Campbell did the strings on it, who's out here in LA and who's done tons of strings for me and Faith throughout my career. He's Beck's dad, oddly enough, but yeah, and he's so incredible and such a talented guy. And he puts his heart and soul in everything that he does with the strings. And I tried to describe what I wanted with that sort of swirling thing at the beginning with the strings, and boy, he just flat nailed every piece of it. He just makes that record soar.
He's so distinctive with his arrangements as well. And what I really love about David Campbell is that he really shows up for great artists like you and Faith, but he always saves a little something special for his son. The strings on Sea Change and on Morning, it's just unbelievable. He pulls that extra little bit out for his son, which I love. I absolutely love it.
He sure does. I mean, he's the best in the business, and of course, Beck is just a genius at what he does.
Absolutely. Wow, what a 1-2 punch on this playlist. I mean, talk about a way to get to know you. I'm taking a look at these songs. I feel like I know you already. Straight out of the Eagles and into Doobie Brothers. You're talking about my childhood, really. I mean, that's backseat of the car for me all day, every day. And again, two artists that are steeped in that kind of storytelling, writing about the wide open spaces, the great Americana. And hearing those songs right now for me in particular is a little bittersweet because of, the growing pains this country is going through. And then you hear a song like Take It Easy. It just seems so innocent and naive when you listen back to it now.
A lot of those Eagles songs were so steeped in country music. I mean, if you could listen to some of the country music, certainly some of the country music that was being made in the late 90s and early 2000s, you could hear a lot of that influence. And like I told you before, that and the Doobie Brothers as well. I mean, certainly rhythmically, the Doobie Brothers were absolutely incredible with the stuff that they were doing, and the songwriting as well. But you can really hear a lot of that influence in country music, and a lot of the influence of country music in their music as well. Like I said, there was an album that I made. The first album I made with my band at the time, called the Dance Hall Doctors album, and we recorded that up in New York at a place called Alair Studios, which is not there anymore. It's right outside of Woodstock, and we spent 3 weeks up on a mountaintop in 3 foot of snow, and this great studio up there with fireplaces roaring, and we just sort of camped out and made it the old way. And our whole influence when we went in there to make that album was sort of 70s, and the way they made albums in the 70s, and the Eagles were a big influence on that record. And I can go back and listen to that record now and just hear all the thought processes that we were going through. And it was a lot of that comes from this playlist that we have here.
Brian Henley into Michael McDonald and Co., and then straight into the boss, Bruce Springsteen, and back with Tim McGraw in a second at home with Apple Music. Come on, man, we're born to run. Let's go. I mean, you could handpick any Bruce song in a group of 100 people. We could family feud that shit. And survey says, Born to Run. I'm sorry. I know you could say Born in the USA. You could say, I mean, there's so many, but it's Born to Run. I'd say that's where we are going. Number one answer, I have to say.
Absolutely. It's such a signature for him. And it's a signature and a metaphor for all of his music and the way his music is and what he writes about in the landscape that he paints and the cinematic sort of view that he gives you every time he writes a song. He's one of my favorite artists of all time and one of my favorite people of all time. He's the coolest dude in the world to be able to hang out with.
Hang on. You dropped something, Tim. I'm sorry. You might want to pick that up. Hang on a second. You popped something there. I think you dropped something right there. Dude, it's pretty cool that you can say that. That's Bruce Springsteen. And I know you're a legend, Tim McGraw, but that's the boss.
No, that's the boss. And it's a funny story because the very first time I met him, he was doing like 15 nights in a row at the Meadowlands. And Faith had recorded Should I Fall Behind on her album. And Bruce had sent her a really nice letter about the record that she had made on it. So he was playing at the Meadowlands. We happened to be in New York, so we wanted to go see him. So we get there. We go to the show. We were just going to see the show. We go to the show, and they take us right into his dressing room. And he wasn't in there at the time. So we're just standing in his dressing room, and then he walks in. And I'm such a huge fan. So Faith and he were talking the entire time. So when we left, we walked out of the room. Faith says, "Do you realize that you didn't say one word the entire time we were in there?" And I told her, I said, I was scared to death. And I was scared to death I was going to call him the boss while I was talking to him. And I didn't want to embarrass myself.
It's nice to be on the receiving end of that because, I mean, the amount of times that you've been in a situation where fans find themselves lost for words when they meet you, it's a beautifully humbling moment. People often think that it gasses an artist and it feeds the ego. In my experience, it's the opposite. It's a very humbling experience watching people lose their, themselves around people that inspire them, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes for me, it takes me a minute to even get it because I just want to have a regular conversation. But, I appreciate it. And I appreciate, what I really appreciate is how music speaks to people and how music becomes a part of people's lives. And I've been lucky enough throughout my career to have a few songs that sort of are beyond me as an artist, that I feel like that they're not my songs. And when I'm singing them and being able to sing them on stage in front of a lot of people, to see how they affect people, that they're something existential in a lot of ways. And I just feel
You
lucky
tapped
that
into something.
that I'm lucky to be on stage and do it.
The song is called I Called Mama, and, you know, an important piece of music that came out at a time when we're celebrating those that have raised us, nurtured us, and hopefully put us on the right path, given us guidance and a strong moral compass. And it was a beautiful song, and it must be nice to be able to sort of dial into that experience and have that moment, to share that moment and put it out.
You know, the thing about it is all of this music was really recorded before the world changed. And that song was one of the last ones that we had done, and it was right before the world changed. And when I recorded it, it was a nice, beautiful, simple song about, you know, something in life happening, and you know, who do you lean on when something hits you in the gut and sort of changes your thought process about the way you're living your life and the way you're looking at life a little bit differently. So it was a nice song about that, and how you reach out to your mom, and your mom's sort of your rock and stabilizes you when things are going crazy. And then once we started mixing the song is when the world went crazy, and we had the pandemic strike, and everything started changing, and our whole outlook on what life was really about started changing. And I think that song took on a different meaning at that time. Then it was not only about mom and about losing a friend, it was about a bigger picture. It was about everybody in your life who you can lean on and can count on to stabilize you when it's like, you know, sometimes when you go to bed and you've been drinking a little too much, and the bed starts spinning, you know, you got to put a foot on the ground to keep it from spinning.
Sadly, Tim, I do. Increasingly in pandemic times as well, I might add.
For sure. But that's what, you know, those friends and those people who ground you and put you, you know, bring you back down to earth, so to speak, those people in your lives. And that's what that song took on to mean. And not only that, who are those people who look to you as that person that's a stabilizing force in their life? And are you living up to that? So the song sort of runs along with a great lyric and a great story and a great melody. But I think in the times that we live in, it really expands, and there's 1,000 lyrics and 1,000 stories that go along with that now, that you can sort of interpret that a little bit different.
So I'm going to imagine you and Faith. It's Friday night. You got a little. It's private time. You get a little. Okay, you're on the couch. You get a little time to yourself. No one's buzzing you. The phones are off. You've done your job. Everything's moving smoothly. On comes Chicago. Because I can't imagine any other time that Chicago gets played. This is couples music right here.
For sure. You know, Chicago 16, Chicago 17, those are the things that in high school, man, and junior high. Oh, I mean, timeless music.
And before they even had hits, they were just brutally funky.
So funky, and the chord changes and the melodies that they did and the harmonies, and certainly Jimmy Pankow and the horns that he put together, are just unbelievable. I mean, and still to this day they're rocking. When I mean, well, now that we can't tour, but when they were touring and doing, you know, 100 shows a year or whatever. I mean, and just loving it. To me, they're one of the all-time great.
Yeah, they're incredible. I tried to sample Chicago once on a record I was making for a rapper in the UK, and I got as far as "Can I?"
No, man. I mean, it's Chicago. Period. Yeah, and I don't blame them.
And I mean, neither. I wasn't even mad at them. I was like, you know, but it was brilliant. I think I got like "Hello, my name is," and then it was just like "Return to Sender." Daryl Hall and John O. It's one of the great collaborations, one of the great duos of modern music, you know, and just that classic, you know, one's a talker, one's not, you know, one's a dancer, one's not, you know. It was just like this yin and yang that was so interesting about those two, and yet the songs are undeniable.
The songs are incredible. I mean, and Daryl Hall singing. I mean, come on, talk about blue-eyed soul. I mean, he's just one of the greatest singers of all time, and you know, you're a rich girl and you're gone too far. I mean, come on, how cool is that? I mean,
that was a good Daryl Hall. That was good, man.
Well, that was my countryfied version of Daryl Hall, and he's got that. There you go.
You got it with Daryl Hall and those kind of singers. You almost got to push your register to the point where you can't quite reach it, but you always do. That's the sweet spot.
And that's what I love about it. It's like the greatest singers, I think, in a lot of times they're on a precipice, and a tightrope. Are they going to make it? Are they going to make it? Are they going to make it?
Because you got to mean it.
Because you got to mean, and if it comes too easy, sometimes it's not as believable as it is if you're not sure they're going. And somebody else who always walks that tightrope and his voice is always right there on the edge and creates so much tension as Phil Collins is another artist that I really love.
Totally. I love him, man. You know, there's a great video of him, and I don't want to waste too much time. There's a great video of him on one of the last shows he did on his farewell tour when he was retiring, and he was playing In the Air Tonight. There's a great footage of him stalking the stage with one of those kind of like those mics that wraps around the chin, and he's got this big drum kit in the center of the stage, and everyone's freaking out because he's so far away from the drum kit, and the big Phil's coming in. Yeah, the Phil's coming in, and he's just,
is he going to get there?
Is he going to get there? It's so funny watching everyone on the crowd, like watching, is he going to make it? And he just gets there within an inch of his life.
I got to work with his daughter on Blindside. Lily Collins was my daughter in the movie Blindside, and all I did was talk about her dad the whole time.
You were that guy. You're just fanboying out about it.
I'm a big fan of your dad's. Did you talk to your dad today? Hey, what's his number?
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yeah, nice one. Should we run lines?
No. Let's talk about your dad.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Tom Petty in your time and his time on Earth?
I never met Tom Petty. I wanted to. I certainly wanted to. I was always a big fan of Tom. There's a song I've always wanted to. The Southern Accent's a song of his that I've always wanted to cover, and I've just never had quite got my nerve up to try to tackle it.
Covers are interesting, aren't they? Because even when you're in a situation where you're successful in your own right with your own voice, but then you hear a song that moves you so much, you have to really check yourself before you attempt it, don't you? Because it's ultimately changing the landscape of what you love.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've done a few covers in my career. I did Tiny Dancer cover, and I only did it because it was funny. We were doing a charity show, and David Foster was putting it together. Faith and I were on it. It was Andre Agassi's charity thing that he did in Vegas for years. It was a really big deal. Faith and I were on it, and Elton John was on it. And I get there, and David Foster comes over to you, which makes you nervous anyway. When David Foster comes over and asks you, "Hey, do you want to do a song with Elton?" And you know, my heart drops to my knees, and I'm thinking, yeah, I want to, but I'm not going to because I'll screw it up. But he said, "Do you want it?" And he said, "How about Tiny Dancer?" And I said, "Well, I know that one, and I'll do it." So Elton and I practiced it, and we did it. And we ended up doing it a couple of times. We opened the American Music Awards with it one time. This was after I recorded. But after we did it together at that Andre Agassi function, I told him, he told me, you should record that song. So I did record it. And it's become one of our favorite things to do live.
Elton is the best.
He is unbelievable. And I love the Rocket Man movie. And we've actually got sort of a tip to the hat to him on our new album with a song called Chevy Spaceship that's got a little bit of a Rocket Man vibe to it.
Back-to-back OG business right here on this playlist. You know, going from Travis Tritt to Randy Travis, and you know, two of the most amazing artists to have come out of the space that you call home. And you know, it must be great to be able to play these songs on your playlist. But no, these are individuals that you've gotten to know, and through living out your dreams, ultimately, you know, you expand your frame of reference into your heroes. You start to make friends with people who helped raise your talent.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm still in awe every time I meet these guys and run across guys that I get to work. I mean, I actually got to work with Randy Travis in the studio. He did a duet album, and I got to do a duet with him. And it was just flabbergasted to go into the studio and to hear that voice, such a rich voice. And I remember the first time, not the first time I heard him, but the first time it really knocked me off my feet. I was in high school, and he had come out with On the Other Hand. And I happened to be walking through the living room, and my mom was watching the Country Music Awards, and I was headed out for a party or something that you do in high school. And I walked by the TV, and he was singing On the Other Hand, and it stopped me dead in my tracks. And went out and bought the album as soon as it came out and just played it over and over and over again.
That was one of the moments that kind of put you on the path?
Yeah, that was one of the moments that really made me think that, gosh, it's changing. And somebody that's singing the kind of music that I like, that's younger, you know, because, you know, growing up, great. I love Merle Haggard and Waylon and Willie, loved all those guys, but you could see the sea change happening in country music with a lot of the younger guys. Another guy, Clint Black, you know, he had a Killing Time and Better Man when I was in college. And those are a couple of same tracks as well that goes, you know, I think that I can make a run at this. At least I can try. You know, they're the kind of music that I love that's got the Haggard influence and the George Strait influence. And there's a new crop of guys coming up, and I don't want to miss the boat. I want to try it out.
And you've become a part of that. Congratulations on a brand new album, streaming now on Apple Music. And thanks for lovingly taking us through a selection from this playlist that will sit in full alongside this conversation. Tim, until next time, be safe, be well, and all the best.
Right on. Good talking to you, man.